No one expected Earth to be humiliated in front of the entire galaxy. But when the Council spoke, everything changed in seconds. The Great Council Hall floated in deep space surrounded by stars and silent fleets of powerful alien races. It was a place where decisions shaped the future of entire civilizations, and today humanity stood before it for the first time. A single human representative stood in the center of the hall, calm and still. His eyes moved slowly across the chamber, observing the tall figures, strange forms and glowing beings that filled the seats above him. They whispered to each other, some amused and some clearly looking down on him. Earth had waited many years for this moment. Humans had discovered faster travel, built alliances, and reached beyond their home system. They believed they were ready to join the Council, to stand among the strongest races in the galaxy. But the silence in the hall felt wrong one by one. The Council members began to speak, their voices, deep, strange, and filled with judgment. They said humans were too young. They said humans were too emotional. They said humans were too dangerous. The words echoed again and again across the chamber. Some aliens laughed quietly. Others watched with cold eyes. The human representative did not speak. He simply listened. His face showed nothing, but inside something was changing. Then the final voice rose above all others. Earth is rejected. The words hit like a shockwave. Earth is removed from consideration and banned from Council contact. Complete silence followed. Even the stars outside seemed to stop moving for a moment. No one moved. No one spoke. This was not just rejection. This was humiliation. The human representative slowly lifted his head. His eyes met the leaders of the Council one by one. There was no anger in his face, no fear, only a quiet understanding. He bowed slightly, not in respect, but in acknowledgement. Then he turned and began to walk away. No argument, no protest, no reaction. This confused the Council more than anything. They expected anger, they expected begging or threats, but humanity gave them nothing. As the human ship left the station, many alien leaders dismissed the moment as unimportant to them. Earth was just another weak race that could not reach the level of true power. But far away inside that ship, a message was already being prepared. A simple message sent back to Earth: we were denied. Back on Earth, the news arrived in silence. No public announcement, no panic, no reaction from the people. Governments across the world received the same message, and within hours, something unexpected began. Old rivalries disappeared. Leaders who once stood against each other now sat together. Decisions were made quickly, and without delay, humanity had seen the truth. They were not welcome. They would never be accepted. And something inside them refused to accept that fate. Deep underground, hidden facilities came alive. Projects that were once only ideas were suddenly given full power. Scientists, engineers, and soldiers worked side by side. New designs appeared faster, stronger, more dangerous than anything before in orbit above. Earth's silent construction began. Ships unlike any human creation started to take form. No signals were sent. No broadcasts, no signs of activity reached the outside galaxy to the Council. It looked like Earth had gone quiet, like it had accepted defeat. But that was far from the truth. The human representative stood alone in a dark room aboard the returning ship. He looked at the stars again, but this time his eyes were different. He replayed the moment in the Council hall again and again. Every word, every reaction, every expression he understood. Something clearly. Now the galaxy did not respect weakness, and humanity had been seen as weak. But that would change. He activated the final part of the message. Phase 1 begins far beyond the reach of the Council sensors. A hidden signal spread across. Human space fleets changed direction. Factories doubled production. Research stations unlocked restricted programs. Earth was no longer trying to join. The galaxy Earth was preparing to face it, and as the stars moved silently across the endless dark, one truth began to grow stronger with every passing moment. They thought humans accepted defeat, but they were wrong. While the galaxy celebrated, Earth disappeared. Many alien worlds shared the same belief that humanity was finished. They thought the rejection had broken them. They thought humans would return to their small planet and never rise again. But something strange began to happen. Earth went silent. No ships entered Council space. No signals were sent. No trade requests. No messages. It was as if humanity had vanished. Some races did not even notice, but a few older civilizations felt something was wrong. They had seen this kind of silence before, the kind that comes before a storm far from the eyes of the galaxy. Earth was changing. On the surface, everything looked normal. Cities were calm. People continued their lives and the skies were quiet. But beneath that calm, a hidden world had awakened deep underground. Massive facilities stretched across continents filled with machines that never stopped. Engineers worked day and night without rest. Scientists pushed beyond limits that were once forbidden. Every nation, every leader, every system now followed a single purpose. No more division, no more delay. Humanity had become one. Old enemies stood side by side, sharing knowledge and power. Secrets that were once locked away were now open. Dangerous ideas were no longer rejected. They were welcomed in orbit above. Earth's shadows moved silently. Huge structures began to form piece by piece. Ships, unlike anything ever seen. Not just warships, but something more faster, stronger, smarter designed, not to fight wars, but to end them. Artificial intelligence systems were given control over entire networks. But this time, humans did not fear them. They worked with them. Machines learned from human instinct, and humans learned from machine precision. Together they created something new, something no alien race had ever tried, something the Council had always feared. Beyond the solar system, hidden stations appeared in deep space. No lights, no signals, no signs of life, but inside them, fleets were being prepared. Training never stopped. Soldiers were tested beyond human limits. Not just physically, but mentally. They were no longer simple fighters. They became thinkers, shadows in the dark. Back in the galaxy, rumors slowly began to spread. Traders spoke of strange movements near human space. Scouts reported brief flashes of unknown energy. A few ships that went too close never returned. The Council dismissed these reports. They believed it was nothing, just stories, just fear. But one ancient race did not ignore it. They sent a probe toward the edge of human territory, a silent observer designed to remain unseen. It moved carefully, watching, waiting. What it saw changed everything. Massive fleets hidden in darkness, ships larger than anything recorded, energy signatures beyond known limits. And then the probe saw something else. Coordination, perfect coordination, thousands of ships moving as one mind. No chaos, no delay, no weakness. Before it could send the full report, the probe vanished, completely erased. As if it never existed. Back on Earth, the human representative stood in a control chamber surrounded by glowing screens and silent operators. His face remained calm, but his eyes carried a quiet fire. He watched as reports flowed in from every hidden sector. Progress was ahead of schedule. Systems were stable. Fleets were ready. Humanity had done in months what should have taken decades. But he knew this was only the beginning. He gave a single command: expand further. And instantly new operations began. Ships moved deeper into unknown space. New bases were planned in places no one had explored. Humanity was no longer hiding. It was growing slowly, endlessly. Far away in the Council chamber, a low-level alert finally appeared: unknown activity near restricted zones. Unidentified energy patterns possible. Human origin. For the first time since the rejection, the Council paused, not in fear, but in confusion. They'd expected weakness. They'd expected silence. But this felt different. And as the stars shifted across the endless void, a quiet truth began to spread. Earth had not disappeared. Earth had gone dark. And in that darkness, something powerful was rising. Something patient. Something unstoppable. And the galaxy still had no idea what was coming next. Humans did something no alien race ever dared. The galaxy believed power came from control, from balance, for rules that no one should break. But humanity had already decided those rules did not matter anymore. Deep inside hidden laboratories far beneath the surface of Earth and across distant colonies, a new kind of thinking began to take shape. Scientists were no longer limited by fear. They no longer asked what was safe. They asked what was possible. Energy systems that once failed were pushed beyond their limits again and again, until they worked. Engines designed for speed were redesigned for impossible jumps. Ships no longer followed known paths. They created their own. Space itself became something humans could bend. Artificial intelligence was no longer just a tool. It became a partner, a silent mind that watched, learned, and adapted faster than any living being. But humans did not lose control. Instead, they merged instinct with logic, emotion with calculation, creating a balance no other race had ever achieved. This new system connected everything: fleet spaces, Weapons defenses all linked together, every move, every decision happened in perfect timing, as if humanity had become a single living entity far beyond the solar system. The first true test began at prototype ship, waited in complete darkness, no signals, no lights, just silent power inside it. A small crew stood ready, not afraid, not uncertain. They knew they were about to cross a line no one had crossed before the command was given, and in a single moment the ship vanished, not through normal travel, not through known methods. It disappeared completely. Then seconds later, it reappeared far beyond its original position, further than any human ship had ever gone. The crew looked at each other in silence. They understood what this meant. Distance no longer mattered. Limits no longer existed back on Earth. The results arrived instantly. The room filled with quiet tension. Then slowly the realization spread. It worked, but something else had happened during the jump. The ship had not just traveled. It had moved through unknown layers of space, layers that should not exist, layers that no race had ever seen, and for a brief moment something had noticed them. The crew could not explain it. They only felt it, a presence watching from the dark. The report was quickly locked away, classified beyond all access. Humanity was not ready to face that yet. But they did not stop. More ships were built. More tests were done. Each one, faster, stronger, more precise weapon systems were also changing, not just designed to destroy, but to erase targets, could vanish without explosion, without trace. Defense systems adapted before attacks even happened, predicting movements before they began. The galaxy had always believed they were the most advanced, but now without knowing it, they had already fallen behind. Small alien scout ships that wandered too close to human space started to disappear. No signals, no wreckage, no survivors. Just silence. Some races began to worry. They increased patrols. They sent more probes, but nothing returned. Fear slowly replaced curiosity. Back in the council chamber, reports started to gather, each one more strange than the last. Unknown energy spikes, missing ships, unexplained distortions in space, and one word appeared again and again: human. The council tried to remain calm. They told themselves it was impossible. Humans were too new, too weak. They could not have advanced this far. But deep inside, some of them knew they had made a mistake far away. The human representative stood alone again, looking at a map of the galaxy. But this time, the map was different. It was filled with hidden zones, secret routes, and expanding human influence areas that did not exist before, areas no one else could see. He placed his hand on the display and slowly moved it across the stars. Each movement marked another step forward, another piece of the future being claimed. He spoke softly. "We are ready for the next phase." Immediately, fleets began to move, not in defense, not in secrecy, but in purpose. Something bigger was coming, something that would change everything. And as humanity stepped beyond every known limit, one truth became clear: they were no longer catching up to the galaxy, they were surpassing it. And soon everyone would know. But by then it would already be too late. The galaxy did not see it coming. While the council focused on strange signals and missing ships, something far greater was growing beyond their vision. Humanity was no longer just advancing. It was expanding, not in the open, not in places marked on any map, but in the deep unknown regions where even the oldest races refused to go. These regions were called dead zones. Areas where stars behaved strangely, where signals faded, and where many ships had vanished without explanation for centuries. The council had declared them forbidden, but humans saw them as opportunity. One by one, human fleets moved into these dark regions. Their ships did not fear the unstable space. Their systems adapted, their engines corrected. Every distortion, their artificial intelligence predicted. Every danger before it could happen. Where others saw death, humans saw space waiting to be claimed. Hidden colonies were built on silent worlds, planets that had no names, no records, and no history. They were reshaped slowly, carefully, turning lifeless ground into strongholds. Massive structures rose beneath the surface, protected from detection. Above them, space remained empty and quiet, giving no sign of what existed below. Each colony had a purpose. Some focused on research, pushing deeper into unknown science. Some built weapons that could reshape entire systems. Others trained soldiers in environments no normal human could survive. These were not just colonies, they were pieces of something larger. A hidden empire. Communication between these locations was instant, not through normal signals, but through a network that moved beyond space itself. Messages could not be traced, intercepted, or understood by any outside force to the rest of the galaxy. These places did not exist, but their influence was already spreading. Trade routes began to shift without explanation. Pirate fleets vanished overnight. Unknown forces cleared dangerous sectors without leaving a trace. Some smaller alien races noticed something strange. Areas that were once unsafe were suddenly protected. Ships that expected attacks passed through without harm, but no one claimed responsibility. No one took credit. It was as if an invisible power had taken control of the shadows. Inside the council chamber, tension slowly grew. More reports arrived. Entire patrol groups missing deep space scanners detecting structures that disappeared when approached, energy readings that could not be explained. For the first time, the council did not have answers. They sent larger fleets into the outer regions, hoping to find the source. But every mission returned with less information than before. Some ships came back, damaged. Others returned with crews shaken, unable to explain what they had seen. They spoke of movement in empty space, of systems activating before they arrived, of being watched by something they could not detect. Fear began to spread quietly among the council members. Not fear of war, but fear of the unknown. Far away within one of the hidden human strongholds, the human representative stood before a massive display showing countless points of light, each one marked a colony, a fleet, or a controlled sector. The map was growing faster than expected. Areas once outside reach were now fully under human influence. He observed the data in silence. Every number, every signal, every movement told the same story. Humanity was no longer hiding, it was surrounding. He turned to a group of commanders standing beside him. Their faces calm, focused, ready. Phase 4 is complete. His voice was quiet but carried weight. The commanders nodded without hesitation. They understood what this meant. The foundation was finished. The Empire was real, and no one in the galaxy even knew it existed. But something else appeared on the display. A signal, faint, distant, and unfamiliar, not from any human system, not from any known race. It came from deeper than any explored region. For a moment, the room fell silent. This was not expected. This was not part of the plan. The signal pulsed again, as if responding, as if aware. The human representative looked closer, his expression unchanged, but his eyes sharpened. He gave a single command: track. It immediately, systems locked onto the source, but the signal did not stay still. It moved slowly at first, then faster, heading toward human-controlled space, toward the hidden empire far beyond the stars. Something had noticed the expansion, something ancient, something patient, and now it was coming closer. The galaxy still searched for answers. The council still believed they were in control, but the truth was far more dangerous. They were not alone in the dark anymore, and as humanity stood at the center of its growing empire, a new shadow began to rise. One that even humans were not prepared to face, and this time the unknown was not watching from a distance. It was coming straight toward them. The day humans returned, everything changed. The council did not expect it. For months they had searched for answers, chasing shadows and signals that led nowhere. Their fleets moved across the outer systems, but found only silence. Then, without warning, it happened. A single human signal appeared, clear, strong, and impossible to ignore. It did not come from Earth. It came from everywhere. In one moment, thousands of points lit up across the council map, unknown fleets emerging from empty space. Not from known routes, not from gates, not from borders. They were already inside council defenses, activated instantly. Alarm systems echoed across every major world. Fleets moved into formation. Weapons charged, shields raised, but there was hesitation, because what they saw did not make sense. Human ships filled the void, massive structures moving with perfect alignment, each one larger, stronger, and more advanced than anything recorded before. They did not rush forward. They did not attack. They simply appeared and waited, watching. The council leaders gathered quickly, their voices filled with urgency and confusion. How did they get here? How many are there? Why were they not detected? No one had answers. Then the signal changed. A direct transmission entered the council chamber. No interference, no delay. The human representative appeared on the central display, his face calm, his voice steady. We are here, just 3 words, but they carried weight across the entire galaxy. The council demanded explanation. They demanded reason. They demanded control. But the human did not react. He continued, "You removed us. You judged us. You believed we were weak." His eyes moved across the chamber as if he could see each leader. "We accepted your decision, but we did not accept your limits. Silence followed, then the first movement began. A council patrol fleet advanced toward one of the human groups they intended to test them to force a reaction. Weapons lock targets confirmed the command to fire was given. Energy beams crossed the void heading straight for the human ships, but before impact, something impossible happened. The attacks stopped, not blocked, not deflected. They simply ceased to exist as if erased from reality. The Council fleet hesitated. Their systems showed no damage, no contact, no result. Then the human ships moved, not fast, not aggressive, just a single controlled motion. And in the next moment, the Council fleet was gone. No explosion, no debris, no signal. Just empty space. Fear spread instantly. This was not a battle. This was something else across multiple systems. Similar events began to happen. Any fleet that approached too close vanished. Any attempt to scan or track human ships failed completely. They could not be read. They could not be understood. The Council realized the truth too late. They were facing something far beyond their control. Back in the chamber, the human representative spoke again. "We are not here to ask. We are not here to join. We are here to decide." His voice remained calm, but now it carried something stronger: authority. He displayed a map, but it was not the Council map. It was larger, deeper, filled with regions no one had seen, human-controlled zones. Surrounded key systems, strategic points, already secured trade routes, already influenced. The Council was no longer at the center. They were inside something much bigger. "You built a system of power," he said. "We built something greater." Before the Council could respond, another alert appeared. Unknown signal. Approaching fast. Very fast. It was the same signal detected earlier, the one from the deep unknown. This time it was closer, much closer. Even the human fleets paused. The signal did not belong to them. It did not match any known race. And for the first time, uncertainty appeared, not in the Council, but in humanity. The human representative looked at the data, his expression unchanged. But his silence spoke enough. This was not part of the plan. The signal grew stronger. Systems began to react strangely. Space itself seemed to shift. Something was entering, something that had been watching for a long time. The Council looked at the human fleets. The humans looked into the darkness. For a brief moment, both sides understood the same truth. They were no longer the only powers in the galaxy, and whatever was coming next was far more dangerous than anything before. The same Council that once rejected Earth now faced something far worse than humanity. The signal reached its peak. Then everything changed. Space itself began to bend. Not like the controlled movement of human ships, but something unstable. Something ancient. Stars near the outer systems flickered. Entire regions of space darkened as if light itself was being consumed. The first contact was not a ship. It was a presence. Something massive moved through the void without form, without structure. Sensors failed to understand it. Data returned empty or broken. And then the disappearances began. Not just fleets, entire stations vanished. Planets lost contact in a single moment. No warning, no trace. The Council fell into chaos. For the first time in its long history, it had no control, no answers, and no power to stop what was happening. They looked toward the human fleets, the same fleets they once dismissed. But now, those fleets were the only organized force in the galaxy within the human command network. Silence held for a brief moment. Every system watched the same incoming data. Every commander waited. This was beyond anything they had prepared, for the unknown signal was no longer distant. It was here. The human representative stood in the central command, his eyes fixed on the shifting map. He could see entire zones going dark. He could see the pattern. It was not random. It was moving with purpose, studying, testing, learning. He spoke one command: full synchronization. Instantly, the human network came alive. Every ship, every station, every system connected into a single unified structure. Decisions were no longer separate. They became one. The first human fleet moved toward the edge of the disturbance, not to attack, but to observe. As they approached, space began to distort around them. Signals stretched. Time-delayed movement slowed, but human systems adapted quickly, adjusting in real time. Then they saw it, not clearly, not fully, but enough. A massive shifting darkness. Like a shadow that did not belong to any shape. It moved without direction, yet it reached everywhere. For a moment the human fleet stopped. Even their advanced systems struggled to define what stood before them. Then the presence reacted. It turned not with motion, but with awareness. It had noticed them. A wave passed through space, and the first human ship disappeared, not destroyed, not damaged, just gone. The fleet adjusted instantly. They changed formation, altered frequency, shifted position. Another wave came this time. Human systems resisted, not fully, but enough. They were learning, just as the presence was back in the council chamber. Silence filled the space leaders who once spoke with pride, now watched in fear. Their power meant nothing here. Their fleets could not even survive a moment, but the human fleets were still there, still standing still. Adapting, the human representative opened a channel not to the council, but to the unknown. A signal formed not in language but in pattern. A message of presence, of intelligence. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the darkness shifted. It paused, as if listening, as if understanding. This was the first time it had stopped. The first time it did not erase what stood before it. Humanity had done something no race had ever achieved. They had been noticed, and they had not been removed. The human representative watched carefully. He understood the risk. This was not an enemy that could be defeated by force alone. This was something older, something deeper. But humanity had already crossed every limit, and they would not stop. Now he gave the next command. Expand control, stabilize systems, protect all allied zones. Human fleets spread outward, forming a defensive network. They shielded weaker races, secured key regions, and pushed back the advancing darkness where possible. The Council watched as humanity took control, not with arrogance but with purpose. The roles had changed, the power had shifted. Earth was no longer seeking approval. Earth was leading, and as the darkness moved slowly against the growing human network, a new balance began to form. Not peace, not victory, but something else, something uncertain, something evolving. The human representative looked at the stars once more. But this time there was no rejection, no silence, no doubt, only a single truth that now echoed across the entire galaxy. They removed Earth from the Council, but they created something far greater. An empire that stood against the unknown. An empire that would not fall, no matter what came from the darkness next.